Good day and welcome to this third introductory video to RStudio and the RStudio environment. In the first video we looked at the 4 different panels in RStudio and we explained the function of each of them. In the second video we dealt with RStudio projects and how different scripts can be pulled together and used in one project. In this video we want to cover 2 things. First of all is the installation and the use of packages. So we're going to, first of all, we're going to look at installing and using packages. And the second thing we're going to look at is just viewing loaded data frames in RStudio. Okay, so let's deal with packages first of all. What are packages? Packages are essentially code libraries that have been pre-written by other people that you can use to do very powerful things in R. So a good example of a package is a tool used to read data from Excel files. There are several packages that you can do that with, but the package I'm interested in is called Read Excel. Right? Now, there are 2 elements to using packages. First of all is the installation, installing packages. This is a once-off operation. You only have to do this once for each package. The second element is the use of packages, which means you have to load packages, and you do this once for each session, right? So if you load RStudio, if you open it up, you have to tell RStudio which packages you want to use. So let's deal with the first one here. First of all, installing packages. So you would normally know the name of the package that you're trying to use. Maybe you are going to see in the code examples that I'll be showing some packages and you will not have them installed. So to install a package, you would type install, and you can see RStudio completes that for me. So I can tab, and I'm going to say Read Excel is the library that I want to install. So once again, the name of this package, you will normally know what the name is from the context in which you're working. Maybe you'll be following along with some of the examples code that we'll be giving, and you will see that I am issuing a command to use that package. And if RStudio tells you that package is not installed, then you will know the name and you'll be running this command. So if I run Control Enter, you can see down here I get information that the package has now been downloaded from the online resources for R, and it has been unpacked and it's now available. So I don't have to do that ever again on this computer. It is now available and installed, right? So just take note of that. The next time I open this script, I am not going to run this again, so I can actually delete this. I'll just comment it out for now. And the second one is then the use of packages. So now that this package is installed, I still have to tell RStudio in the current session that I'm working that I want to use it. And to do that, I use the library command. And so here I can just say again Read Excel, and if I Control Enter, then this library is now available. So now I can issue a command such as, you can see if I type in Read Excel, it tells me that there's a Read Excel package installed, right? So if I enter there on that package, I will see that there's a command like Read Excel SX, which allows me to read data from an Excel file. So that's the way that you install and use packages. Now this command, library command, which loads a package, right? So we distinguish between installing a package and loading a package. So this command you need to have in your script, and it needs to be run in every session that you open, right? So normally I would put this at the top of my script, all of the libraries or the packages that I want to be using in the script or in this project, I would put at the top of my script. You can also put the packages that you're using in a certain library in one script, and you can just run that entire script every time you open that project, and then all those libraries will be, or packages will be available for you. Now the second element I just want to talk about is viewing and loading data frames in RStudio. So in a previous session I looked at running this command, and this command I'm just going to copy into this script in here. And once again, don't worry too much about the syntax of the code here. Basically I'm assigning a file name here, and then once that file name is assigned, I'm thinking that this file is in my data subdirectory of my current project folder, and I'm now going to read that file, which is a CSV, and assign the data that is in this CSV file to the variable called data. So here I've read this data frame into this variable called data. Now there are several ways in R that you can go and look at the data. So inside the package called tidyverse is a lot of useful commands to look at a data frame like that. So if I load this library, I can then type in glimpse and the name of the data frame that I want to look at, and you can see down here that I get quite a handy quick summary of the type of columns and the examples of the first few values in each of those columns. So, and there are many other commands like this. For example, summary data is another useful one that gives you some statistics quickly on the columns and so forth. But I found that if you're coming from an Excel environment, you almost feel lost if you can't look at your data physically in a grid. And for that reason, I often make use of this environment panel. You can see this variable data has been loaded here, and there's two things that I can use to look at this. First of all, there's the arrow here, and then there is the variable itself that you can click on. So you got the little arrow and you got the variable. You can also click on this grid element. Let's first go to the arrow. So if I click on that, you can see I get something quite similar to the glimpse, what the glimpse command gave me. It gives me the columns, the name of the columns, the type of the columns that have been assumed, and it gives me some of the first few variables in each column, right? Now, another way to look at this data is to click on this grid element here, or I can also just click on the variable here. And you'll see then it will open up this data for me in a grid like this. So this is very useful if you're coming from an Excel environment and you want to look at your data in a grid. Be aware of these two other ways of looking at your data. So I'll just emphasize that again. First of all, you can see your variable is sitting there. If you want to just look at the columns in that data frame, you can click on the little arrow and it will show you. If you want to look at the data, you can click on the grid icon or on the variable itself. So I normally just click on the variable name, and then you can see the data here in the grid. So those are beginning things that we are covering. We'll do one more video that we'll only get to later in this course, in which we're going to look at debugging your code in RStudio. If you are trying to find a gnarly little problem, the debugging feature is very handy to use. But this is basically all of the basic foundational knowledge you need to have to start writing code in RStudio. And so we're now going to move on to the online written examples to get into the actual coding syntax and write some useful functions in R. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.